The next lecture is going to be over Chapter 14, Section 2, Objectives, Identify Causes of Water Pollution in Europe and some solutions. Number 2, understand the causes of air pollution, the problem it creates, and some solutions. So the first thing that we're going to be looking about is kind of a case study here. In 2000, Romanian gold mines are going to leak cyanide into the streams. The deadly poison is going to flow into the Hungarian Cezar River. It's going to kill about 80% of the river's fish, and fishing jobs are going to be lost. So why are we kind of talking about this? What are we looking at? What we're looking at is that this is basically going to be showing that Europe has got a problem with pollution. There's so many people, they've been around for a long period of time, and the cities are continuing to grow. And so what we're looking at is we're trying to figure out ways to solve Europe's water pollution. And first we have to look at really what's going on. So what we see here is that we see that there are mines and factories all over the world. And these mines and factories are great because you're going to be able to go ahead and you're going to be able to mine this. Industrialization and manufacturing become very important, and when you start mining this materials, your country can get very wealthy. Well, the problem is that for a long period of time, in about the 1950s to about the 1990s to 2000, a lot of pollution was occurring, and people just didn't understand the long-term ramifications. Chemicals would be released into the streams, solid waste seeps into underground water, which is called groundwater, and pretty soon you're going to see burning coal is going to, and other fossil fuels are going to cause acid rain. So here what I'm going to go ahead is I'm going to draw just an example of acid rain and kind of what's going on with that. We'll draw it a little bit better. But this is going to go ahead, and this could be a factory right here. And what we see is that there's going to be those smokestacks that everybody has seen that kind of, you start burning the fossil fuels, and then you're going to go ahead and you're going to see smoke and smog and all kind of the bad pollution going up into the air. Now, a lot of people think, well, what's a big deal? Well, what you have is that you've got these clouds, big fluffy clouds, that are going to be nice and happy because they haven't gone through pollution. And what happens is that they go and they basically go through that polluted smog that's gone into the air. When they come out the other side, then they're going to go ahead and they're going to be transformed into pollutant clouds, and they're going to be going ahead and they're going to rain. What we see is that when it rains, you're going to go ahead and you're going to see this stuff forming as acid rain. And so when we start seeing this pollution in this area right here, the problem is that it's going to create pollution, but it's also going to cause acid rain as well. Countries want to develop their industry, so what they have to do is that they have to decide, do they want to go ahead and do they want to see environmental damage, or do they want to go ahead and they want to see the cost of progression? So pollutant controls are expensive, and really the question is, well, what do you do with them? And so this is kind of the balancing act that a lot of these people are going to have to go through. Not all cities have sewage treatment plants. Harmful substances can contaminate rivers, soils, crops. We're going to see this specifically in Africa, but we're talking about it now, is that we're going to see a lot of countries that are not going to be able to have these sewage treatment plants, and essentially what happens is that they start becoming kind of harmful. We'll talk about stories when we get into Africa about how the drinking water is contaminated, and then you get cholera, which makes it so that people are going to be diseased because of lack of sewage treatment. We see rain washes off chemical fertilizer off of fields and into water. This is going to cause algae, and this is kind of a vicious cycle. It causes algae and plants to grow faster than the fish can eat them, and then pretty soon the algae and plants die and they start to get decay. The decay then uses up oxygen and it kills the fish. And pretty soon when the fish die, they start to decay and it uses up more oxygen. It's just kind of a vicious cycle. We also are going to go ahead and we're going to see oil spills. This is a major problem here throughout Europe and really throughout the world. An example of this is in 1990, there's a big oil spill off the coast of France. It spills about 10,000 tons of oil, spreads along 250 miles of coastline. What you see with these tankers and the oil spill is that it's so very difficult to clean up. You think about all the water that has to be treated, but then more importantly, you see things like rocks, fish, animals. They all can be affected by this oil tanker spill. So you're going to go ahead and you're going to see some major problems when people spill oil into the oceans, and that's why they're going to have to go ahead and they're going to have to be very careful. Cleaning up the water requires cooperations between nations. One of the things that we're going to see is that you have to have nations working together. For example, if you've got a country like France who's doing a lot of polluting, yeah, it's going to be polluted in France, but pollution doesn't stop on national boundaries. So it continues on, and you're going to see Germany and Spain, Portugal, all these countries that are nearby, they're going to want to make sure that everybody is cooperating. There's an international commission for the protection of the Rhine. The Rhine is going to go through France, Germany, Luxembourg, Netherlands, and Switzerland, and it's formed in about 1950 to clean up the Rhine River pollution. The pollution of the Rhine has decreased, so this is one of those things that we see that if you people can kind of get together and combine their efforts, you're going to be able to see some positive things. The EU, or the European Union, passes environmental laws that members must obey. You see the European Environmental Agency, and that's going to provide information on the environment and basically help them to go ahead and progress to becoming a little bit more cleaner. Now, causes of air pollution. Human activities expel gases, particularly into the air. These particles are very small particles of liquid or solid matter that essentially go into the air, and if they become polluted, they can harm the environment. Burning fossil fuels like petroleum, gas, coal, this all is going to create pollution. You're going to see smog that can form from this burning of fossil fuels. This is going to be a brown haze from gases interacting with the sunlight. Smog is going to then include the ozone, which is going to be a health-threatening form of oxygen, which basically you can see become, if polluted, it can be a problem. Carelessly caused forest fires release smoke and particles. We see this every once in a while where we are at in Nebraska, where we'll see a real dark red sun. You can kind of right at the end of the day, you can see that the air quality can be really bad at sometimes, and some of the fires that have actually come about have actually been from places like Minnesota, and we see that from long distances that the forest fires are going to cause issues. Dry cleaning, refrigeration, air conditioning, all these things that we want so badly, they're going to go ahead and they're basically going to cause pollution. Now, causes of air pollution. This kind of goes back to the drawing that I showed with the industrial factories. They're going to put chemicals like sulfur into the air. We talked a little bit about this before, but our communist countries are going to be heavy polluters. And what happened was that especially with the Soviet Union, they're going out there and they're worrying very much about getting resources, and they're not worrying about what the pollution that they did. And so a lot of the countries that actually broke away from the Soviet Union in 1989 to 1992, they're going to find that there's a lot of pollution that the Soviets did. Resulting problems, we see a huge increase in things like asthma, bronchitis, emphysema. You're also going to see that the air pollution is going to cause harm to livestock. They stunt plant growth, and then of course we talked about that acid rain. How do we clean up the environment and clean up the air? Individual countries pass laws to make air safer to breathe. 1998, the European Union nations are going to agree to reduce car emissions in 2000. This is actually something that the United States did as well, because what happened was that California was worrying about the emission that all the cars were doing, and so California actually passed laws that said that there has to be a certain amount of they kind of topped off the emissions that a car could do. The thing about that was that people in California, there's so many people and they buy so many cars that a lot of the car industry or the automobile industry is actually going to make those changes for the entire United States. So that's actually something that California has done to actually help out the rest of the United States. This is going to be the conclusion of Chapter 14, Section 2. Please make sure that you complete your assessments at this time.